it's him, it's idiosyncratic, it's different to any other player, and has that indefinable something that great players have.
David Gilmour, along with Roger Waters and Nick Mason, all have the incredibly rich back catalogue of Pink Floyd to play in their own shows, to transport fans back to the golden era of the band. In fact, their set lists are dominated by Pink Floyd classics, and Nick Mason's band exclusively plays the earlier music of Pink Floyd. And let's be honest, if you went to see Roger Waters or David Gilmour live and they didn't play Wish You Were Here, for example, you'd be pretty disappointed, right? And despite this extensive catalogue of tunes to dip into, there is one song that David Gilmour refuses to play live, and the reason why is rather heartbreaking. Hi, I'm Adam, welcome back to Music Mongoose. The song in question is there's no other word for it, masterpiece that is Echoes from the 1971 album Medal. This track serves as a snapshot of a point in time where Pink Floyd were really coming into their own. This track could be seen as the starting point of their golden era. The moment Pink Floyd moved away from the acid rock offerings of the past into a more experimental realm. Medal saw Pink Floyd delving into longer, more atmospheric compositions. Echoes itself being an obvious standout as the band experimented with ambient sounds and intricate arrangements, foreshadowing their later work. And in fact, Echoes should be considered right up there with some of Pink Floyd's best work. It's certainly some of Gilmour's greatest guitar work across their discography. I mean, his solo on that track is incredible, it's so aggressive and yet dynamic. The song takes on an anthemic quality as various classic Floyd elements come together in a series of intricate layers over the 20+ minute runtime on the album version. The delicate interplay of these sonic textures paints a vivid picture of a band at the height of its creative power. Fully embracing and pushing the boundaries of technology at the time, Gilmour was able to create an atmospheric tone unlike anything else. A distinctly Pink Floyd kind of sound, employing the use of delay, echo, and distortion. These elements would become big parts of entire future genres, like dream pop, shoegaze, and even metal. The track is an ultimate example of progressive rock, dense and layered, but at the same time fractured and surprising. The composition is a work of genius. And speaking of composition, we come to Richard Wright. Wright really is the unsung hero of Pink Floyd. Of course, Waters and Gilmour would be the ones to dominate the headlines, with their slightly more dominant positions in the band and of course their famous feud grabbing all the attention. But when it comes to the music of Pink Floyd, Richard Wright is so instrumental in the composition of the songs and just his wizardry on the keys. He was a huge part in producing the Pink Floyd sound as we know and love today. I think it's very easy to overlook his involvement in the band, and sadly he's severely underappreciated as a member of Pink Floyd. He would, like Gilmour, push the technical limits of what was possible at the time.
But when it started actually taking shape was when Rick played the piano through a Leslie in number 3 at Abbey Road.
And that's quite a story because we said, let's try and get the piano going through a Leslie. And of course all the engineers in EMI said, not possible, you can't do it. We'll build something so we can do it. I mean, they had the boffins upstairs and actually built this box.
And those boxes you get with Hammonds these days, with Leslies, you plug, they didn't exist.
They didn't.
They plugged directly to a Leslie, to Hammond.
So how did it? So how did it start? So when they set it all up, I went, "Oh, let's see what it's like." Ding, and everyone said, "Yeah."
And that started feeding back, just right on the edge of feeding back. So it would ping. Went on far too long. Rick started playing, around, and then he thought, that one note really pinged. I must try it again.
You see, that's how those iconic pings at the beginning of the track were created. So you'd think it'd be an obvious song to include in the setlist of a David Gilmour solo show. However, it seems that the connection the track has to Richard Wright is just too painful for Gilmour to even consider playing it on stage. Richard Wright sadly died of lung cancer in 2008, aged 65. In the final few years of his life, he worked extensively with Gilmour. He was a regular member of Gilmour's touring band. He also contributed keys and background vocals to Gilmour's solo album On an Island, released in 2006. Gilmour and Wright shared a rather special connection, and perhaps the best way to explain this connection and the deep love and respect Gilmour had for Richard Wright is to show you a clip from 2008. David Gilmour is awarded Outstanding Contribution to Music at the Q Awards.
I'm going to dedicate this, if you don't mind, to my old friend and colleague Richard Wright, who died a couple of weeks ago. With whom I've worked for 40 odd years now. As I say, he deserves this just as much as I do. You could say that he worked in the position of second fiddle, or slightly behind some of the pushier chaps up the front. But their work, his work, was vitally important to our entire career. So, would you all stand up, and I'll propose a toast to the memory of my friend Richard Wright. Richard Wright, cheers. Thank you.
So how do we know that he refuses to play the track live? Well, let's go back to 2016. David Gilmour was preparing to play in Pompeii's amphitheatre, the first rock show for an audience since Pink Floyd's famous 1971 show at the same site. Interviewed for Rolling Stone, Gilmour said, "It would be lovely to play Echoes here, but I wouldn't do that without Rick. There's something that's specifically so individual about the way that Rick and I play in that you can't get someone to learn it and do it just like that. That's not what music's about." This really goes to show the link that Wright had with this song, and indeed the connection that Wright had with Gilmour. The idea that no one could simply learn and perform it just as Richard Wright did, so the song should go unperformed. If anything, it goes to amplify just how special that song is. It's not just a track that Gilmour could rattle through on stage and call it a day. This song is so much more than that. It's a representation of Richard Wright. To play it would be a huge mistake. Now, another member of Pink Floyd who sadly passed away far too soon was of course Syd Barrett. Did you know though that Syd unexpectedly paid the band a visit while they were recording Wish You Were Here? And the meeting was so unexpected and shocking that it actually moved Roger Waters to tears. You can click the video here to watch that one next.